Welcome back to Africa Prime. We are talking to business leader and IT innovator Andile Ngcaba. Andile, we were talking just before the break about this need for policy certainty, the fact that the market needs to know exactly what policies are in place so that the innovations can keep a pace, with what is happening on the ground. Just quickly, South Africa's policy trajectory in terms of ICT. What is your view? I was, doing some research for this program, and I realized that the minister is going to be reviewing policy and taking this matter to cabinet only in 2013. Is this really necessary? Are we just not reinventing the wheel? Shouldn't we just be getting on with it?
You see, what is happening is that, today technologies change very fast. As you can see, you hear Google has got this tablet, there's this phone, new phone. Everything is going into the internet. Video is going into the internet. When you talk about, for instance, this broadcasting that we are busy with today, this in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be streamed right onto the internet, all right? Television, as we see today, will be receiving internet directly. You will actually, instead of tuning into different channels, you will be tuning into the internet. So the issue is that as everything is going into the internet protocol, all right, to be honest with you, there is only one issue that will be dealt with at a policy level. It's going to be the issue of frequencies and spectrum in general. But the way in which the world is developing, right, the speed at which things are changing, everything is going to go into the internet. Let's take one example, what is called machine to machine, whereby, things will almost, your car is going to have Wi-Fi, your microwave will be connected onto the internet. Your curtains will be connected onto the internet. You name it. What I'm trying to say is that the breadth and the scope of tomorrow, to be honest with you, it's very important as a government or any government to just know where the interventions are supposed to be. Because in my opinion, policy model has changed. It has to be dynamic, it has to be real time, and it has to be, almost as the pace of change is taking place. Mm-hmm. It is not going to be based on events like happening now and then you write a policy today. As it happened many years ago, you would write a policy, review it after 5 years, write another policy, review it. No, it's not going to be like that.
You're going to be overtaken.
By the time you finish writing something, technology would have gone past that. So it becomes a dynamic process.
Let me ask you, as a businessman involved extensively on the continent, you are involved in, close to 16 companies. Mm-hmm. What is the importance of creating capacity with African business people? We have a global connectivity here. We have big companies coming into the continent, taking up advantage in the market and leaving kind of locals, in the dust. What, in your experience, does African business need to do to stay, ahead of the game and to provide some kind of framework for their entry into the market and not just have kind of big global players come into the African market?
A very, very important issue. I think everybody has seen in the world that Africa is the growth place today. Wherever we go, you see, every time where we have to deliver services to business, to consumers in the continent, there are Chinese companies, there are Indian companies, there are Europeans, there are American entities. So as local players, it's very important. One of the things that for us we are putting is to empower local people. If we go and set up a business anywhere in the African continent, we work with the local people, partner with them, because these are the people who have a deep understanding of the market. And scale people up so that they have what I call skin in the game, so that they feel that, they have ownership of this and they can be able to pursue. Gone are the days, the way in which emerging markets or frontier markets operate is very different to the way developed markets operate.
Indeed.
You have to create a local base and let the product or the service you deliver be sold by local people. That, to me, is what a winning formula is. Otherwise, if you think that you're going to run a headquarters somewhere in Europe, a headquarters somewhere in another country, or even a headquarters in Johannesburg, you have to localize the business. Localization is what will make us grow as a continent and us become regional leaders. Now, let me come and talk about just a few things to add. Let's take, for instance, manufacturing.
Yeah.
I mean, if in Africa we're going to have 1 billion mobile phones, why don't we manufacture phones here? I mean, 1 billion mobile phones market is good enough for us to have manufacturing plant to supply the African market. So we need, it goes back to then what I talked about, if we need to create frameworks, policy frameworks for us to be able to manufacture phones locally.
To actually deal with that value chain and add value to that chain. But what are the impediments in terms of, I mean, we talk a lot about beneficiation, we talk a lot about not being fixated with extracting from our raw materials and exporting, but we're not getting it together. We still, for example, in mining, with all the diamond cutters sitting in Israel, when there's not a single mine in Israel, for example. So what are the impediments to us creating this value chain?
I mean, I go back and use an analogy. Exactly what you have said is correct. I mean, here, it's applications. I mean, as you go into...
But if we talk skilling, Andile, we're talking education. It's not something that we're doing well on the African continent.
Basic education to that layer that is advanced knowledge that you give to people. I mean, let me give you one example. I mean, if just count how many times when you Google something, that you want to know about something, that the input to that information is located somewhere in the African continent. We need, internet is an open space. We need to create content and load it onto the internet so that when you look for something, it's not the first 10 that comes out. It's not things that have been loaded in Europe. Internet is for everybody, is for us. Nobody can claim to have the ownership of the internet. You own it. Every country has a stake in the internet, and therefore we need to load more information onto the internet. Whatever it is, it could be, data about classrooms, about from grade R to grade 12. It could be university content. It could be anything. These are things that must be available on the internet so that children can access a subject on the internet through a BlackBerry. They just BBM, get a download of the subject so that people can access and say, if I'm sick of this, what type of tablet or medicine can I take?
But how do you incentivize for business the fact that they need to be able to grow their business, make money, be financially viable, but also speak to the developmental needs of countries, particularly in the African context? And what is that balance? What is the right balance that you need to bring between public and private partnerships using the ICT sector going forward?
I think, in my view, there is a huge opportunity here. Sometimes, to be honest with you, I mean, if you create products, in my view, if people like them, I mean, you don't need government assistance. People, if you create a product and people, they like it, people will get your product and use it. But I agree with you that, in order for us, there are services that will require both public and private sector to work together. I mean, for instance, I was talking to my GP the other day saying, when you come to the GP's office, you get given a piece of form to fill it. I said, if you get one iPad or one tablet, you just create this form there, and it gets passed around and people fill it in. It makes it easy for you not to have this wall of files, basically, right? Because the cost of running that wall of files and the cost of, $100,
digitizing it, yes.
And it makes your life much easier. So when you come back again, you are able to just get access to that information. Now these tools are no more expensive. There is a site you can have a look at. It's called Work Mobile. You can create any form in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Whatever is a form for, whether it's a form, for you to fill in for a loyalty service, whether it's a form of a government department, 5 minutes you build a form, you create it. Now, the same form that you fill it in by hand, which still has to be captured by somebody, you capture it yourself. Now, who doesn't know how to? People write SMSs quickly. Now,
this is obviously your passion, Andile. You've been doing this for the better part of your life.
The rest of my life.
For the rest of your life. You've been in government, you're now in the private sector. What about the ICT sector is it that gets you going, that gets you excited? Because clearly this is something that you've always wanted to be involved in and have been involved in.
One is innovation. Sometimes it is not about the technology. It's about what technology does to change the way we do things.
Indeed.
That is what to me fascinates me. I mean, I would take a very simple problem and then use technology, design things to solve that. I mean, I give you an example. This problem that we have in education today, I'm busy with my team to find the best way to solve it. Now, we're not going to solve
Should we still be having textbooks? Should people not
exactly
just be downloading this information from the internet?
That's exactly what we are doing, to basically say, how do we take all the subject matter of grade 12, grade 11 and everything, can you, if your storage, your BlackBerry can store, or your iPhone or your Nokia phone can store the entire curriculum of grade 12. You can put it in, you can load it in your phone. But what we need to do is to make it user-friendly for young people to be able to, to know, I can quickly open an English, a history app, or a physical science app. These are things that we are trying. What this has done has almost triggered us to say, but can't we develop something to make it available to people? So
using innovation to actually literally change the lives of people.
Exactly. I mean, the other one is very simple, whereby, you go, how many, if I ask you, how many antibiotics have you consumed in your life? We develop simple products that sit on your phone, whereby as you consume medicine, you're able to load all the type of medicine that you consume and the quantities over time. And you store this, as you say, in the same part of your phone where you store contacts. Because in your contact, you've got name, surname, address, email, and everything. Same structure, but to capture the medicine you consume on a daily, if you have a condition, or monthly or yearly basis.
We can talk forever on this,
so
as
I'm
I
just
can
saying
see.
that
Absolutely.
it is about the issue is about changing lives of people.
Absolutely. Andile, thank you so much.
Sake, yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. We have to leave it there, unfortunately. That was Africa Prime. We were talking to Andile Ngcaba, the man who drew South Africa's telecoms code and now drives investment. Thank you for joining us. Good night.